And the talkers are usually easy to tell because they hop off the table, and immediately start jabbering. I think they were going to pause for tape change. So ride that out. Another thing to make sure and tell them is, and how you phrase this is up to you. Make sure that they know that it's okay if their shit really stinks. If their feces really smells, because you've done a lot of work around the colons. You're clearing out a lot of stuff. Blah blah blah. So that's a very good possibility that they're going to have some stinky stools for a while. Another nice thing to do is just have a nice cup of tea or something waiting for them, maybe, something to just let them simmer. Also, after they leave, take some time for yourself. Drink some water yourself, by all means. If you're like me, run to the bathroom. All of that. We already talked a little bit about the symbols and how I view them. There are additional things to bear in mind with each one of these symbols of Reiki. We're going to start with the power symbol, and I'm going to skip over the stuff that you all know about the white switch, and second degree, and all that, and focus on some things that you might not know, such as intuitively tracing out the symbol. Instead of rigidly, dogmatically tracing out the symbol, you don't have to do that. These are communications tools. There's no reason that, language works both ways. So this language is absolutely no different than any other. In regards to this, the Choku Rei can be traced out with the minimum number of spirals, or can be traced out with as many as you'd like. It can also be allowed to assume any color that you want it to assume. Very rarely will you ever have a Choku Rei traced out in a balanced manner in terms of it looking perfect. Both spiral halves absolutely perfect. So you can tell things from all of this. All of this can be an intuitive mind candy for you if this is what you're into. Right? Here's what you can tell from these things. Fewer number of spirals, the more physical and etheric the healing is going to be. More spirals, the more mental and emotional the healing is going to be. Color of the symbol corresponding to energetic system stuff that's going to come through. If you have a blue symbol with a lot of, or if you have a red symbol with a lot of spirals, have a box of Kleenex handy. You're talking about a very Mars fiery red energy, active energy, going on a deep emotional level. You never know what's going to come out. Just little things like that can help you prepare for ahead of time. With the spiral, if it comes out with a larger half on the person's left-hand side, this indicates brain imbalance, and it means that they're more in their right hemisphere of their brain. If it comes out traced out more over their right-hand side, then it indicates that they're more on the left side of their brain. Just like, I am left-handed, so consequently, more of my faculties lie in the right side of my brain, allegedly, except for all that Gemini. So little things like this that you can tell from these symbols that you can pass along to people. They're these nice tools. Now, at my level, probably at your level, these tools are mind candy, and chances of me actually paying attention to this stuff anymore is pretty minimal. But you're going to be out there, or you are out there right now, and you're teaching other students, and you're initiating people, and these are tools, very effective tools that can lead to them developing their intuition much faster than they might otherwise. It's like the kinesthetic thing, with pendulums or whatever. Before long, the yes and no's are popping into your head, and it's the same thing with the pendulum, But originally, it's the pendulum you're waiting for it to swing. So, these are sort of the little pendulum kinesthetic things of Reiki that can help people progress in their pathings much faster. Also, the mental emotional symbol, what we have with this is a really fun thing to make people draw out in classes, because a lot of times you can sort of tell what the person's into by, like massage therapists a lot of time initially will draw the symbol like it's bent over a table or something, and stuff like that. It's funky. It's really funky. The back part and how they draw that and how the symbol is bent can tell you a lot about a person's back. So that's something that you're going to have to develop and look at on your own. The front part, doesn't really have too much to say, but I usually say trace the symbol over the whole person, and start with a little beak thing, sort of right here, top of the head to the neck, and then kind of sort of the dragon's head, as I'm calling it, from the neck down to the solar plexus, and then swept all the way down. And then the other thing from above the top of the head, down the other side. And how that bends is going to tell you a lot about the nature of the person's back, structural system. And also, after that, where the bumps fall along the side. If they fall, they're going to fall close to a chakra most likely, and that's a chakra that needs work. If the bumps come out small, it's a very under-energized chakra. If the bumps come out large, it's a very over-energized, possibly even blown out chakra. So just little tiny intuitive things. And again, you have the color coming in with the symbol. And I recommend that second-degree people go down and they get a decent book on color healing. I don't say which one because they all say basically the same thing. The core of information under each color is essentially the same. And I think that it's very important that you allow people to be attracted to what book, what piece of information there. Everything else will be garnished aside from the essential information about the color red. So a person will go down, and I feel personally that they will pick a book that will be much more in their language, much more in their framework, much more representative of what that color will mean to them when it comes up in their healing and all of that, than I could ever just pick one and say, you have to go buy this book. So that's the way I pass that along. Let's see, what else do we want to cover about this? The mental and emotional symbol is, and we'll take a break after this symbol. I know we're all getting a little antsy. The mental and emotional symbol is one that people don't use a lot in some areas of the country because they're afraid to. Because they've been told that they have to completely clear their mind and emotions and all of that, or it will come into the person's subconscious mind. This is out there, you're going to encounter this sooner or later. What I do is a very simple procedure. I visualize a channel of energy going between myself and the person that I'm working on, and I visualize that as a link between my consciousness, essentially my conscious mind, and their subconscious. And in the middle of that, I see kind of like a neon open sign or a beer sign or something like that. That kind of a wireframe neon outline of the Seiheki, and right in the middle of this channel. When I want to plant an affirmation, which I do not do very often, honestly, when I work on other people, because I don't really feel like I know, what I should be implanting into their subconscious mind, unless they want to quit smoking or something easy like that, where there's zillions of, hypnosis systems built up around it. You can just look them up easily. For the most part, I really don't use that. I do use affirmations a lot myself, but I open that Seiheki that's in that channel of light like a door, and plant it, and close it back. Or conversely, if you want to know what's going on in the person's subconscious, open the door, let it drift to you. But that's one way to get the person a little bit more comfortable. And this way I visualize that the Seiheki energy is just shooting through, with absolutely no problems, down this tunnel, through that symbol. And all that symbol is doing is filtering out my personal thoughts and emotions and keeping theirs personal thoughts and emotions from me. So if that's what it takes for a person to feel more comfortable with that, then just kind of throw them that bone. Okay. Another thing to keep in mind with this is that you are dealing with emotional healing, and stuff will come up. Some people want to deal with it verbally, some people won't. If they don't want to deal with it verbally, simply have them visualize it out, on a screen or something like that. Or if it's just an emotion, have them blow a balloon up with the emotion and just let go of it. Or do some kind of cord cutting technique. There are plenty laid out in the guide that you have in front of you. I recommend that you look through them and do have those on hand for when you teach a second-degree class, because they're very important. Now, people that use an affirmation, it's very important that they phrase it in the positive. This is one of the very first things that I cover when I start talking about the symbol in a second-degree class. The subconscious mind very often does not hear a negative word. So if your affirmation is "you are not sick," what the subconscious mind will hear and manifest is "you are sick." So you have to be very careful with that. You do the kind of fluff thing on this, where you are completely and totally healed on all levels by divine love and light now, or something, something really new agey and fluffy that the subconscious mind couldn't screw up if it tried, its very best. So that's always my recommendation. And I do recommend that people go out and at least look at and buy a book on hypnosis or whatever. I assume that they're never going to do that though, so I always tell them about that affirmation thing. The final point on these first two symbols are they're used for protection. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of this or not, but a lot of people trace out Chokurei in the morning and Seiheki for protective purposes. I trace it out all the time while I'm driving. It's just a fantastic protective symbol for just about everything. I've been kind of lax on the Chokurei thing while I was driving for a while, and then I got a ticket, so now I'm back to Mr. Relentless Chokurei while I drive. Seiheki is the same way. People say that Seiheki has like a Christ consciousness type protection to it. I don't know if I buy that so much. My guess is since it links to the subconscious mind, that it's a good protector of the subconscious mind, so that's what I think. Okay, we covered that very quick, and that's kind of extraneous second degree material that you may or may not have heard before. We're going to Hanshazation and after the break. Do you have any questions on it?
I was just wondering, when you were talking about the Chokurei and drawing that onto the person, and as far as I didn't quite get what you were saying about how that can be indicative of a right or left brain imbalance, depending on.
When you trace out Chokurei over someone, the hemispheres of the spiral will be one will be bigger, one will be smaller usually, and a lot of people after a healing will trace out a Chokurei just to see if they've done a good job balancing. If the spiral comes out larger over the person's left-hand side, that corresponds to them being much more centered in their right brain chakra.
So you're essentially imagine like a plumb line or a midline, and how the one you're drawing relates to that.
Essentially.
Okay.
Yes.
When you're tracing these symbols over the people, do you have them close their eyes?
Yeah, usually. I usually have them in a relaxed, meditative state. And a lot of times, I'll put somebody to sleep if they're drawing energy real erratically or something. I'll just knock them out so they draw even further. This is a really good position to put somebody to sleep with.
Really?
And this is a really good one to wake people up with. And every now and then, if you teach those in class, every now and then someone will call you and they'll help reverse them. And they'll be screaming at you saying, it doesn't work, it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I tried to go to sleep and all it did was keep me up, and all that. So it's a great validation, Yes?
Could you go over the number of swirls again?
Sure. The fewer number of spirals, the more it's going to tap into the etheric and physical healing level energy, first degree type energy. The more number of spirals, the more you're going to be dealing with mental and emotional level healing and that kind of energy. Any other questions?
Yeah, do you do the symbol that you do right over the body, you do that before you do the symbols up the chakras?
After my invocative prayer, just before I work on somebody, what I'll do is I'll trace them out, all 6 symbols or 7 symbols or 8, or however many I choose to do, over the person.
Over the person. Okay, and then you
I
do
usually do
chakras.
Chokurei about in here, with the spiral ending up in the center of their solar plexus. I'll do Seiheki exactly the way I defined it earlier. And Hanshazation, I'll usually have the about in like this. And then it sizes itself perfectly with the body. And so does Daikon.
Right, but you do that's what you do first, you do those symbols first?
And then I work on them.
But then you said you're doing the symbols up the chakras as well? And you got the chakras?
That's
before.
That's before.
That's before.
The whole charging procedure that you're doing on yourself comes first. And then just as you're ready to start, just before you lay your hands on someone, then I trace the symbols out over them. The other ones were for yourself.
Oh, the other ones are for yourself. Okay, all right, that's where I got confused.
Okay, cool. Okay, anybody else? Okay, I want to pick up and resume our discussion with the second degree symbols where we left off, and we were up to Hansha-Ze Shonin. The Distant Healing Symbol, Chapter 10, page 44. What I'm going to talk about here, a lot of people haven't been told that it's okay to incorporate Hansha-Ze Shonin into a normal healing. And that is completely acceptable. Because Hansha-Ze Shonin not only sends energy at a distance, but it also sends energy to other points in time. So by incorporating this into a healing, you're really opening up a huge additional spectrum of opportunity for that person to heal themselves. Also with this, you have the ability for something called a Reiki stack when sending at a distance. And that's something that I'm going to cover here in fairly intricate detail. I'm even going to include some new notes that I just typed in yesterday. Now, traditionally, it was taught that in sending Reiki at a distance, what you did was you used your two legs, and on the one leg, you would, use the knee as the head, and where they joined in is representing the feet. You would visualize the person there, and you would systematically heal them. Well, I travel a lot, obviously, and a lot of places I like to drive to, because I enjoy driving. I don't get tickets, and which I hadn't had for years before that. And so it's very convenient for me to just lay one hand on my leg while I'm driving with my left hand. So I took to just tracing the symbols out and sending energy at one point on my leg, and that led to stacking stuff. And then I found other people that were stacking things. So this is a very beneficial method to teach at second degree if you haven't heard of this yet. What you do, simply, is use whatever distant healing method you're familiar with. And this is mine. I'll trace out a Daikomyo, and then a Choku-rei, and then a Hansha-ze shonin, and then now a Zonar. And then I'll put in a first layer of things. I'll offer the healing energy to whoever, Karen. And trace out a Choku-rei on top of that. Choku-rei, 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 in standard procedure, saying each symbol's name 3 times and all that. And then I'll send it to someone else, like my mom, another Choku-rei, myself, another Choku-rei. You can build up a fairly decent-sized stack of stuff like this, sending it out my crystal grid, whatever. I usually put inanimate objects on near the end, just because, for some reason, the higher you get on one of these stacks, the more zap of energy the person